Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Turning Point Podcast, stories and strategies from the world of business. And today joining me is Tom Viinikka. I've known Tom for a while now. We've talked at some length about some of his businesses. He's had, so 5 businesses, I think you've had, Tom, or more. And really interesting, crossing different verticals, different industries, and just lots of great stories and lots of insights. And anyway, welcome to the show, Tom.
Thanks for having me.
So I wanted to dive in, I know we've had some great conversations about where you got started. I wanted to dive in, back in your past, how did you get into business? What was your first, time of kind of dipping your toe in?
My first real business was Valley Landscape. It was a landscaping company. We started landscape construction company. Started while I was in my undergrad at the university, and my buddy and I decided that we wanted to try and put into practice some of the things that we were learning in school. And my dad was an entrepreneur, and that really inspired me and made me want to I always kind of had in my head that that's what I wanted to do. So we started doing that, and things went really well, actually, and to the point where by the time we were done school, we were there was no point in getting a job or going anywhere else. That was kind of our destiny at that point. And so
Yeah. And so landscaping company, so you went from, and I know we see them even around here, some small, summer landscaping companies. They show up every summer, they kind of do the lawn, and then they're off. But it sounds like the one you did grew into something much bigger than that.
Yeah, it was, like I say, by the time we were done, we were doing well enough, and we built something substantial that was meaningful to us. I mean, for me, a lot of entrepreneurship is building something that means something, and that's cool, and that's it's like you say, it's not just some kind of little hobby thing that you do, but it's you're creating something, and certainly something that I didn't want to let go of, and that I was proud of, and that thrives today. My business partner ended up buying me out after 5 years, and he's gone on to do very well with that business and build a really, really cool business with it.
Oh, it's nice to see something still, hanging around and something that you created, even if you're not there anymore. So where did you go from there? Because I know you've been through a whole bunch of different industries. So.
Yeah, so the construction industry, I enjoyed that, but I wanted to branch out and try something different, and so I left, and then found a retail business, sporting goods retail business that. I thought, I love business and I love sports. Let's put them together, and it'll be lots of fun. And it was a lot of fun. We had a great time. From that, we expanded to another store. So we had 2 stores in Edmonton, and then we opened up also a paintball store as well, and created a brand, Prevail Paintball. We built into a brand that was recognized across Canada, I had a really, really cool fun time in the sporting goods retail world. I mean, retail has its challenges too, though. So there was a lot, lots of learning. I went to school, got my BCom, and later went to get my MBA, and then all sports gave me my PhD, and it was probably my most expensive education, but it was a really worthwhile one too.
Well, and we've talked a little bit. I know one conversation we had was a lot about the retail industry, because that's an industry I don't know that much about, and I found some of the challenges the retail face were really, really difficult. And then, of course, like right now, for you guys that are watching, we're filming right now. It's August 2020, so we're right in the middle of of COVID. The economy's kind of opened up globally, but sort of, and we know, I saw a stat the other day, 50% of Canadian businesses are down over 50% in revenue, and a lot of it is retail and restaurants and that. And can you just go into a little bit of some of the challenges you face in retail? Because I was really fascinated by how some of that worked.
Yeah, it's funny, when I was in the construction industry, I was, we'd go and find a client. We had to work to get clients, and then we had to help them, and through this long process of building building something for them. And I always kind of envied, I looked at retail as like, people just walk in your door, grab stuff, and then leave, and leave you money. And I had this completely stupid idea of what retail was and how easy it seemed. And I remember the first major challenge for me was suddenly realizing, like, looking out the front windows of my store had these great big windows. I looked at the front windows into the world, and I thought, I don't know where to go to get customers right now. Like I need people to come in. I need more, but like, I just thought they were coming, you know, I mean, like build it and they'll come. No, that's not the way it works. And it, especially with the retail apocalypse, I mean, things are changing. People's habits are changing, how they buy. And so, you know, we had to work really hard to find those customers. And one of those things was building this paintball brand. And so we had a really cool, that was a really cool experience for me. Was paintball used to be kind of a section inside of all sports. And we realized that this group of people, particular segment, really wanted a place to connect to, wanted something that they could grab onto. The all sports brand wasn't meaningful to a paintballer, similar to like a skateboarder doesn't want to go to Sport Check to buy a skateboard. They want to go to a skate shop where like these are their people, something they can connect to, something they can grab onto. And so we decided, realized that was kind of happening there, and built a brand around that. And that was a really fun experience. It was cool. And I think that is what retail has to do on every level. I mean, if you are selling just a completely generic widget today, I mean, goodness, you're like, that is on Amazon and it's all going there. If it's not there yet, it's all going there. But, you know, the people that can develop Lululemon, you know, things like that, people who develop a brand and a connection to those people, those are the ones that are going to survive and thrive. I think they'll really thrive in retail. But anyway, so that's this kind of weeding out of things that need a connection and things that don't need a connection. Businesses that did both of those things are losing half their business and having to figure out how to really connect to people and just take the parts that they're able to make that connection with, take that, and that's your new business, and build from there. But anyways.
How do you think retailers are sort of managing? I know one of the things we talked about a little bit that was really interesting to me too was the inventory and how you dealt with your orders of product, and now you've got companies that are you know, like, because we talk with retailers as well, even though it's not a huge segment of ours, it is a segment, and we're finding, you know, some retailers are like, they can't even keep stock in, like bike shops and some of the hobby shops, and then you have other ones you can't get anybody to come in the door, or they're going to big box stores, and how would a retailer look at, like, right now, how do they manage that sort of inventory and what they're going to order when it's so unpredictable going forward?
Yeah, that is, I mean, inventory is a major problem for retail, especially when it's, you know, one of my struggles, one of our suppliers kept on adding SKUs, more and more SKUs constantly to their product mix. And it just, as a retailer, the problem was I can't bring this all in and supply it, because you're making something so specialized that now you're increasing the appetite for more and more specialized pieces of equipment. And so for a hockey stick, say, for example, you know, if you have a million different, you know, curves on a hockey stick, or flexes or anything like that, then the thing that, you know, person A wants is so specific that the likelihood that I'm going to carry it anymore is just so low, which is much easier to do online when you have a centralized inventory system, when you can have a massive amount of inventory and send it out wherever you want. But that's really challenging and difficult for the small retailer. And I really think either those types of products are going to have to move out of those stores, or they're going to have to go online and learn to be an online / bricks and mortar type of business. And we're seeing more integration like that, where stores will come together as in buying groups and then sell online as a buying group.
Okay. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And so there are solutions that are coming like that, but still it's a challenging, that's a real problem for brick and mortar. And you know, you have to make, for me, it was a matter of deciding this is what we're going to sell, and I'm just not allowing all this other, I'm not allowing myself to get sucked into having, you know, so many SKUs and simplifying.
from moving from retail, I know you went into, I think it was the trucking industry, and some of the things that you that we talked about there were seasonality issues that, again, I was totally unaware of, but I found really quite fascinating. Tell me a little bit about that business.
Yeah, the trucking business that I was in was actually it's energy services. People don't realize that the whole oil industry really is on wheels. It it needs to go from one place to the other, and so almost all equipment is a truck or attached to a truck. And so we're in the, an oil field energy services business, and we hauled chemicals and things like that. And that was, that was a new, goodness, new like everything. Anytime I've started a business, it's never been in something that I've had any previous experience or expertise. The retail business, I'd literally never rung a register before, never pressed, popped it open. I didn't know how to open a register, just had no idea about it. But same thing with trucking, although this time I went in with a friend of mine who was very talented. I knew very upfront that he was, the kind of guy that you want to be in business with, and I knew I could support him and help him fill in the gaps. And together we were actually a great team. But we went into this new business, and it's, the oil field is an adrenaline junkie like type of business. It's boom and bust and seasonality, as you kind of mentioned, and so you have to learn to ride these waves and learn to be very disciplined when, in the face of, just incredible amounts of money coming in, and thinking, woohoo, we've done it. And then, but then turning around and, in a season, money just pouring out out everywhere, or just leaving. And then suddenly a crash, and then everything is hell for 18 months, and then turn, boom again, and suddenly it's flat out. And so we had this, had to learn to ride this roller coaster, and both of a roller coaster of emotion, and discipline and how we ran things, discipline with our cash flows, and the neat thing was that I had, in my previous experience, the one thing that I had to very carefully learn, and it was in the sporting goods industry, because there is seasonality there, of course. In the winter we were hockey, in the summer we were different sports, and so there was changes, and had to be very careful with cash flows. And so my experience from there translated really well into the trucking company, into the oil field, so that I knew how to manage those ups and downs, and we were, we ran a good business. It was, we did well, and we were able to, where a lot of businesses were not able to manage those troughs and those dark times. We were able to get through those quite well. So it's good.
It's interesting that you're talking about diving into business, kind of nothing about. And as I've talked with entrepreneurs, it seems to be sort of one of two ways. An entrepreneur sees an opportunity and jumps in, whether they know anything about it or not, or they know something about an area but nothing about business, and so they dive in. And that's how I started. Like, came out with I came out of a university with a design degree, and naturally I'm gonna hang my shingle up, and then people will come and hire me to do all this stuff. And it was a little bit like, like you were saying, you're looking out the window going, okay, where is everybody? And so it's like I sort of developed into an entrepreneur over the years, and it was an opportunity I saw, but it was in a domain I was familiar with. And it's interesting that the opposite there, you see an opportunity, you have this business sense, but you don't necessarily know about the industry. It's just it's one or the other. I don't think I've yet seen somebody that says, I've got all of this business experience and I'm going into an area that I know a lot about. It's just like, that doesn't seem to happen. I just find that kind of fascinating. But
yeah, I think that to me, the reason that happens is because entrepreneurs, I think what makes an entrepreneur is someone who has a certain amount of business sense, and B, a certain amount of risk. I'll call it risk appetite, or desire for risk. And it's not that, people talk about how entrepreneurs tolerate risk, or they're able to live in it. And I would actually argue that an entrepreneur doesn't tolerate risk. They're like actively seeking it out. And so one of the ways you find risk is by trying something that you know nothing about. You know what I mean? It's going into a place that's completely unknown to you and the thrill of being there. And I think that it doesn't mean that people take crazy, uncalculated risks. You know, there's a really successful entrepreneur that I know who would say that he is very calculated, and he says he's risk averse, but the truth is I mean, he's done wild and crazy things in his career, taken big risks, but they're very calculated. But underlying that is that he's actively seeking places to take risk. In fact, I think his life, just like mine, would be totally empty if it wasn't for some element of risk that as soon as I get out of a business, it doesn't take me very long before I'm just looking and dying to find a place where I can feel a little bit of pressure again and to put that risk on.
It's one of the things I found, I think, with entrepreneurs too, is it's a different mentality towards risk. Entrepreneurs rarely think what they're doing. Like you said, this guy, he doesn't think he's a risk taker. He takes a very calculated risk. Entrepreneurs, I find that they don't see, like when they see something, they think it's an idea. They don't think there's risk. Like they just have this unnatural, of course I'm going to make it. That's a guy. I get it. Like it's a good idea. Right. And because I would say the same thing. Like, I don't know if I feel like I'm a risk taker, and they look something like, well, yeah, I guess I've taken some pretty big leaps of faith over and over and over again. And you know, so most have played out pretty good, and the odd one's been a complete, utter failure. And that's how it is. And, but it is when I talk with non-entrepreneurs, a lot of times I find out that it's like, oh, I didn't realize it. Like that's how kind of regular people think. Like they see that as like really risky, and an entrepreneur just is like, no, it's not. Like I have so much confidence it's going to go, that you just have this unnatural, unnatural view of the world, I think, at times.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Like when I think of what I want to do next, it's not that I'm not thinking about that there's a dang good chance this is going to fail. That's not the I mean, I like you say, I have unfounded optimism maybe of what's coming, yet I also know of the challenge that it'll be and the things that will have to be learned, and but it doesn't those things don't phase an entrepreneur. They see things as possible. I think that's a really important thing, is that you see things as possible. I can be a fairly pessimistic person, and often in my business partnerships, I tend to be a little bit more, not completely blind optimism, but a certain amount of pessimism mixed in there too, that I tend to be a little bit of the brake man, like which is what may be good with this managing of cash flow part, is that I could, as good as things were, I could still be thinking about what we have to be aware of and thinking about, and about, what could go wrong and what could be bad. And so there's, but anyways, I think that a certain amount of blind optimism is important to be able to get yourself to jump off the cliff.
Well, I know, like early on when I think I started my first business in 1999, and that was I think the last time I had a job, like a full-time job, was probably 99 or 2000 or something like that. And I remember a quote, I don't know where it was from. Somebody out there, you may know where it's from, but it was the idea that entrepreneurs aren't about taking risk. Their entrepreneurs are about minimizing risk. Yeah. And it was an interesting sort of thought to put in your head, because you as an entrepreneur, you have to take massive risks, and sometimes, depending on the industry and everything, compared to like my first business that was a creative agency, we kind of like got a client, started up, hung our shingle up, but you kind of have revenue coming in immediately, right? With Dryrun, with a software app, it's much higher risk, much higher stakes. but it's something that echoes in my head. You are taking these massive risks. What we're trying to do is minimize those risks and give yourself enough time and enough runway and enough smarts and luck, I guess, to make it right. But it's a different way of looking at risk that's always kind of in the back of my head a bit. It's not just about jumping off a bridge. It's about, okay, well, let's tie a line here first before we do it, right?
Totally. Yeah. It's like, I love that. It's seeing an opportunity, and there is risk, but it's okay to do it. You're not jumping off a bridge for the sake of jumping off a bridge. You're not, it's not a lottery ticket that you're buying just for the sake of risking $50. You're doing something, knowing that there's risk, and actively trying to, and doing the things that it takes to mitigate that. I love that. That's a great, like what you said.
Yeah, it was. Which I remember, I think it was from a book. If I remember what it was, it might have been the EMyth, but I'm not 100% sure. But that's a great book. If you guys are looking for something to read, it's a terrific book. So now we've gone through a few of your industries. So where did you sort of go after the trucking company? Like, what are some of the other things that you've done?
Yeah. So while I was doing the truck, there was some busy years in the middle there. I was doing the trucking company and the retail business, and at the same time, that's when I got my MBA, and I went from 3 to 5 kids during that stretch as well. And life was a little crazy during that time. But I also, while I was getting my MBA, I spent a lot of time at school, and I got more involved with the entrepreneurship hub, that eHub that was there, and just get more into the community, and became more interested in the tech community while that was happening, because a lot of the eHub tends to be tech companies. That was a lot of fun. It became really interesting to me, and I saw it as the future. I saw, contrasting that with some of the other businesses that I was in, both oil and retail, are changing, and there's ways to be very successful in those places, like I said, but you're experiencing change and disruption in those, and contrasting that with being around these tech companies and thinking this is where we're going. And so that was really exciting for me, and I spent quite a bit of time, being around there and trying to help out and trying to learn what I can, and then got involved with a company called Alio Games, and that was a fun experience. There was an ed tech software company, and we had a little app that helped with creative writing for young kids that in kind of the 8 to 12-year-old range. And we got accepted into Imagine K-12, which is connected with Y Combinator, and so we went down to the Valley for that, which was fun and interesting, and a neat experience to do that. And then after that, I was looking kind of around, and still involved in like I say, in the eHub, and came across some great guys that sat down in front of me, actually at a speed mentoring event. Sat down for 5 minutes, and they opened their mouths and said, "We're doing virtual reality, and we're thinking about doing an escape room." And I said, "Guys," hand on the table is that, "Guys, we're holding here for 5 minutes. So here's my card. We need to go for lunch, because what I want to talk about with you is going to take way longer than this 5 minutes that we have. I'm excited to hear what you're doing, and I've been thinking about this same kind of thing." And so we went for lunch and had a great conversation, and then basically started, got into business together. And so for the next 5 years, worked on a bunch of cool things there that ultimately ended up, just before COVID, I was on my way back from Airbus in France, where we were installing a location VR equipment and software for them. And so this kind of a neat ride.
So it actually moved into like also an education or training space from the gaming side that they were working on.
Yeah, so we started with escape rooms, and the neat thing about escape rooms was watching people. Our game was multiple people in the same space playing VR together. So it's not I go off into my cube and you go off into your cube. We were all together, and we had created kind of this. Our goal was creating a very social interaction, and the the unexpected result of that was that you can, if me as an outside observer watching these other people in it, I'm watching these very genuine social interactions that we attempted to create, and learned a lot about the people that were in there, and realized, hey, we can actually, I could pull that person aside and say, hey, let me tell you a little bit about your communication and what it would do to help you, or how I can help you in your communication with a team be more successful, whether it's in escape rooms or just in life. And so we started thinking about this, and realized there was a really good training opportunity and a really good assessment. I mean, I can also, there's two things: I can train you, but I can also assess to see if you, when I really want on my team. And so in half an hour, watching people going through escape rooms, I was able to pick, hey, I think this person would be a real rock star if we brought this person into our team. So we that's what we installed at Airbus, was a tool that they would use to evaluate people, to bring into their teams, but then also to train them.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, it's and I actually got to try one of the escape rooms
Cool.
probably about 6 months ago or so. I can't remember when we were at some event, and those guys were there, and they had this escape room set up, and it was a really interesting experience with that. I'd never done anything like it, and I know 3 of us went into the room, and it was much more immersive than I thought, and it felt like we were in there for like 10-15 minutes, and then we kind of got out, and you take the mask off, and it's like 45 minutes or whatever. It seemed to take forever, like we didn't realize, because the time just blows by. But I was amazed at how quickly you kind of get sucked in, and you're actually you're talking with and integrating with these other people around you. It's just the possibilities are kind of endless. I just found it really pretty interesting. So
yeah, it was a really fun business to be part of. VR is a pretty neat technology, and there's just so much that it can be done with it. But
so what are you sort of up to today? I know you've sort of been all over the place. We're in the middle of COVID. What's on your plate today?
So COVID came. We flew back from France, and when I landed, and my phone just started blowing up, and people were saying like, did you make it home? Are you home? Blah, blah, blah. And while we were in the air is when Trump had announced all of the closures of the airports and everything else like that. And of course, that didn't mean they were closed at that moment, but everyone was starting to get into a bit of a tizzy about if I was going to make it home or not. And we were, truthfully, we were a little worried ourselves. But so we got back and realized that the world has suddenly like massively changed, and putting a headset on people is going to be challenging, in the near term. The long term, VR is going to have tons of prospects. It's going to do very well. In fact, there's even arguments that for some places in that business that will do better because of COVID. But we realized that the product that we were immediately working on was definitely going to be challenged in the immediate term. And because of where we were in the business with developing it, we needed to press pause. And so we were talking about some different options and things to do. And the idea came up to use Zoom instead of VR, which would be a step back, slightly, it wouldn't have the same immersion things that we were accomplishing with VR. But a lot of the things that we had learned psychologically about what we were doing not to people, but to help people, that they were still intact and that we could do it using a Zoom call. And so that's where Frankly was born. And we've been doing this similar, creating a hiring app, creating an app where people can, we essentially cause social interactions among groups of people that can be observed externally and used to evaluate a person or to help train a person, and help them feel a real, genuine social interaction, a moment where they, not where you just role played what you would do, but where you actually did what you do, and we all saw it, and you felt it, and then we can help you from there to learn to change it or to amplify it or to, whatever you do, or to evaluate to hire. So that's the offshoot now of that COVID, smacked us in the face and just said, forced us to look at things. I remember the thought when it first went through my head was, what if we didn't use VR? And I just laughed. Like, I mean, we're a VR company, man. It's in our name. What, like, how could we not? In fact, somebody a year before, Viinikka actually is the one who said this. Like, when we were trying to name the company, he said, "Well, do you want to have VR? Well, like, what if you stopped using VR?" And I said, "Dude, well, like, how 2/3 of our team is VR expertise? Like, we are VR bad. There's just nothing we're gonna do. We're never gonna not do VR." And then here we are a year later. Viinikka's 100% right, which tends to be the case.
He's a pretty insightful guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what we're working on.
Well, and it's the world, like you said, has changed so quickly. Like, our team has always been remote, so we sort of hit the ground running. It was almost like everything changed in business with our clients and everything, but the way we worked, we were already remote. But it has been a bit of a different experience because I've been hiring people a number of people remotely I've never met. And some of them are like, we're going on like, 6, 8, 10 months. I've never met them in person, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're just on Zoom every single day. And it's such an odd feeling, but it's a very different experience. And going through the process of hiring people has been a very different experience. And it's always high risk to hire people. And so now it doesn't look like this is going to change quickly. And I think you guys are really onto something where you can help businesses figure this out and lower that risk on hiring people, especially when they can't sort of sit face to face, and you're missing out on some really powerful things when you have to do everything remotely. So it's interesting. I'll be watching to see how that goes. And but anyway, I think we've kind of covered a good range of your businesses. I really enjoyed the conversation, Tom. But any last thoughts?
I guess the only thing that I would say as a last thought would just be a shout out to entrepreneurs. I mean, keep kicking and doing your thing, and this we are in. I mean, I don't know if we have ever seen a global, change the way that we're seeing right now. Which means I don't know if we've ever seen a global opportunity or global, like, just massive opening of opportunity to everyone all at once. Like, when things hit like this, everyone's mindset becomes a little bit more flexible. People realize that I have to change, I have to do something. Everything's on the table again. And when everything's on the table, it's kind of a land grab again. Like, you can go, we're back into the Wild West, get your stakes and go out there and start staking out land, like it's, and so if you're an entrepreneur, or if you have the inkling to be an entrepreneur, man, this is a good time. It seems counterintuitive because all hell's breaking loose and there's carnage everywhere. But man, I don't know if we're ever going to see something as opportune as this moment, because voids are opening up that you can fill all over the place. And it's going to be neat to see who comes out of this on top, and who what cream rises to the top. So I think in a few years you're going to see some of those infographics where it'll show like the top companies and top industries year by year, and it's going to be this weird bar graph where things will be shifting massively over the next few years, and it's everything is in flux right now, and we see businesses that are innovating and coming up with all these different ideas, and then some that are just like obviously struggling mightily, and no one knows where it's all going to settle. But I think you're right. It's a whole new world out there, and it's a whole new set of opportunities too for entrepreneurs. So it's some excitement out there as well. I don't want to say excitement, but you have to have some sort of light in a time like this, and hopefully there's some opportunities for people to grow some businesses. Yeah, you have a choice. Everyone has a choice to, I'm a religious person. I'll say this in kind of a religious way. You have the choice to look at this through eyes of fear or eyes of faith, and whether you can, if you want to replace faith with optimism or some sort of faith to me is stepping into the darkness, trying something new, doing something, taking a risk of some sort.
Yeah.
And so if you look at this through eyes of fear, then this is just COVID and it's horrible and it's messing up your life. But if you look at it through eyes of faith, there's a step you can take into the darkness and find some cool stuff, like, and grow and learn and really, to me, that doesn't mean there's not pain. I mean, COVID has brought its share of pain to my world. I have the commercial real estate as well. And goodness gracious, like that's a scary place to be right now. And, if your tenants aren't able to pay or they're closed, they're obviously not able to pay. There's, my business got changed. I went from a place of comfort and VR to boom, starting all over again. And, there's comfort that I feel, but if I look at it just and sit and think and ruminate about all the crap and the fear, I can do that, and I can get myself into a deep dark hole. Or we can look at it with a little bit of faith that things are going to work out, and that things are going to be better, and that there's opportunity, and I'm going to go find it. So.
Yeah, and I think you're right in a lot of ways. Entrepreneurs are going to be some of the most important people to carry the world, the economy, the jobs, the opportunity. It's going to be new, like, entrepreneurs starting up that I think are going to have to carry a lot of the load. But there is opportunity, and it's a difficult time. We don't know where we're going to get to, but it's also hopefully people are grabbing hold of the opportunity as well. So
yeah.
Well, thanks so much for joining me, Tom. This was a great conversation. I always love our chats, and it's funny, like, you've had so many businesses, and I know we barely scratched the surface of them, but I think there were some really interesting nuggets of truth and insights in there that I hope you guys really got something out of and really enjoyed. So if you hopefully you'll tune into some of our other Turning Point podcasts. We've got a bunch of episodes up. Please give a listen. We've just got a great bunch of entrepreneurs, each one with unique stories. And thank you so much for joining us today.